Welcome to Collinsville, Illinois for another Gillen's Barn update. Here's Joe McCarty with a step-by-step talk about how to reconstruct a barn.
If you went back 2 years and 4 miles away, you would find a kind of a saggy barn with a bunch of busted windows and rotten siding, and maybe if you got inside you'd see that the flooring was compromised in a couple of places you wouldn't really want to walk. And the barn takedown guys use man lifts, they use scaffold, they use cranes, they use ladders, they use fall arrest equipment. They'll do almost anything to keep from being exposed to a surprising failure in a timber, or taking off a piece that somebody else is standing on, or the real risk is getting halfway through the dismantle and destabilizing the entire structure and just having it domino down. We often are given a mandate from the funder to preserve as much of the original fabric of the building as possible. Rick's really good at that. Most people find it really tiresome, but the folks at the Smithsonian, for instance, they want all the boards and all the timbers and all the pegs and all the shingles and all, you know, I mean, if we'd let them, they'd have us put the original straw back in, I think. Then they jump into a design phase where they take the assessment of the original structure and they, in many cases, commit it to computer-aided design. They do an inventory of what's absent, what's functional, what needs to be repaired, what needs to be replaced. Often that's color-coded on the plan set. You'll get a cut list, that turns into a lumber order. This whole thing sort of creaks along in slow motion, and someday somebody designs a foundation.
Rhythm, look at each other.
We have a slightly different mandate, which is to make the barn functional in 2 weeks first and use as much of the original material as possible. But what we're not doing is repairing old material so much as using what's solid, like those braces behind you. You can even see the little tags on them. And then replacing what isn't solid. So once we've identified that this particular timber needs to be reused as opposed to replaced, it gets scanned for nails. Maybe the tenons get cleaned up like those braces here. It gets stuck back in the inventory and marked as available for the raising, and off we go. If it's a new piece, the process is much more extensive because the piece has to be oriented for crown and bow. Bow in and the crown up is generally the rule. Then it has to be laid out. So you take the plans and your pencil and your tape measure and your frame and square, and you provide markings that use our code to communicate to the guys further downstream. We're going to do the cutting. Here's where the mortise goes. It's this deep. You draw out the physical dimensions of the mortise. You write on it that it's a mortise. You write on its depth. You finish that timber. Somebody else, usually somebody senior to you, but not always, somebody else is charged with the responsibility of coming around and checking your layout. Then it goes down to the cutting station, which could be the same group of people, could be a completely different group of people. You often don't know when you're doing layout whether you're communicating with yourself or, in the case of a guild event, someone you've never worked with before in your life. When they're stuck together, they take a lot of measurements to make sure that the building is the right size and that the tenons are completely seated. You see them take diagonal measures, so they'll often use 2 tapes to make sure the frames are square. Only after all of that is kind of snug will they drill and peg it. And then once they get the frames put together, we stand them up, and you can hear the national anthem playing in the background, and everybody applauds, and then it's time for dinner. Simple. Simple. Anybody can do it.